Hi, Beth.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hmm.
You sleepy like me? I'm like, this
No,
COVID's just got to end. It's just.
I'm tired of it all.
Yeah, I'd say it's fatigue. It's not physical tired. It's a fatigue tired.
Yeah. Hello, Matt.
Good evening, everybody.
Are you on vacation too? Hello.
I am, yes. I am.
I'm not. I
Yeah,
wish I
me
were on
too.
vacation.
Me too. Yeah, but you had a long one there, didn't you? The
Yeah,
Christmas
yeah,
holiday.
it's tough to complain. I don't work that many weeks out of the year, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I actually I didn't even realize it was going to be vacation this week. That was head down, just bulldozing forward. All of a sudden it was like, oh, Mrs. Anderson, you can't assign us work next week. Oh yeah, why not? Because it's vacation. Oh.
We've just been happily playing the back and forth game at UNH between face-to-face and remote. So we've been remote for a couple of weeks,
do that
but
too.
we go back to face-to-face on Wednesday, tomorrow.
We are in class 4 days with groups separated, and then online 1 day. So it's like juggling kittens.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
4-to-1 seems to be a popular solution.
Yeah, but it's not really 4 and 1. It's more like 2 and 2 and 1.
Right.
Because they divide them into A and B.
Right.
So whatever you do on Monday, you have to exactly duplicate on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So whatever joke you cracked on Monday, you got to remember and crack the same joke on Tuesday.
Oh, so you get to beta test your material, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of neat doing your planner, because if you have a couple of the same classes, you're just like writing it once and then making an arrow to down and then an arrow across and then an arrow diagonal, and half the week's done.
Our problem is we had like the 2 Monday snow days. No, the
Right.
2 Tuesday snow days. Then we left early on Tuesday. So
Right.
those Thursday kids, they're like, here, this.
Yeah, the B-Day kids were definitely getting all the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I've got it set so my hybrid, my kids that are at home have everybody's doing the same thing. So it doesn't matter, snow, rain, sleet, you're gonna do the same thing. So the only thing you miss is being with me live.
Okay.
Which actually is.
Oops, I'm sorry, Pam. I'm going to call the meeting to
I'm
order.
sorry, it's just me babbling.
It's 6 o'clock. So as chair of the Northwood Select Board, I find due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, we're authorized to meet electronically. There is no physical location. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we've provided public access via phone, and also there's possibilities via video or other electronic means. The public had notice of how to do this in the meeting notice that we posted. If you have problems accessing the meeting, please call Paul at 603-767-5540. Again, Paul, 603-767-5540. If the public has trouble accessing the meeting, or the select board does, the meeting will automatically adjourn. You might not hear a formal vote to adjourn. All votes will be taken by roll call, and we'll start that off with a roll call for attendance. Matt,
Present.
Beth,
Here.
Tim,
Here.
Pam,
Present.
and Hal. This time I'd like everybody to rise and pledge the closest flag, if you would, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
Pledge allegiance
and
to the flag
republic for which
of the
it
United
stands,
States of America,
one nation,
and to the republic for which it
indivisible,
stands,
with liberty
one
and
nation,
justice
under God,
for all.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We'll open it up for citizens forum. Anybody that wants to speak, please indicate so. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody that would like to speak, so I'm going to move right on to the ongoing business, which is the approval of the minutes from February 9th. So to get started on that, does anybody have any edits they'd like to propose for that? And I'm trying to bring mine up now. Anybody? No, nothing? Okay, I'm just going to suggest a couple edits related to the what I would call the preamble or the upfront stuff. It doesn't quite exactly match what I read. I think it's a carryover from maybe the very first time we did it, and it includes, for example, phone numbers that we don't use anymore. So if the board doesn't mind, what I'm going to suggest is that we leave it go for this time, but I'm going to ask Paul to send me the Word document that he uses, and then I'll wordsmith it to make it what I've actually said or what is the boilerplate that I've got from the Municipal Association handout. So that said, do we want to basically approve them subject to that one change, or how would you like to handle it? Just wait till next meeting? Anybody have a preference?
Well, we should put Paul's name and his number down instead of Susan, right? So it's all,
Yeah, and
we'll have another cover sheet next meeting, so we'll just approve these and give
okay.
them the cover sheet. It's up
Yeah,
to you guys.
That's fine with me. Anybody object to that?
No.
Okay, then how about a motion to approve them as written, please? Thank you, Tim.
So
Do I have a
moved.
second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Matt, how do you vote?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yep.
Pam? Pam, I'm not hearing you.
Looks like she's
You should
frozen.
be.
Now
Yeah.
now I hear you. So yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. And I'm also a yes. Thank you. And Paul, just like I said, just email me that front page of the Word document and I'll edit it. Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Walter, do you want to read off the consent agenda?
I certainly do. Good evening. The consent agenda for February 23rd, 2021 includes the accounts payable manifest dated February 17th, 2021. Batch number is 15385 for $68,830.99. And also batch number 15387 for $2,325. The agenda also includes the payroll manifest dated February 24, 2021, batch number 15389 for $85,284.82. Also included is the treasurer's report for the month of January.
Okay, thank you, Walter. Does anybody want to discuss any of those items separately or add any comments to that? If not, then again, I'll just remind the public that we do this so that you know how much we're spending. In general, the board reviews these things in much more detail when they're sent out, and then we approve them electronically so that the town can continue on their business. So this is more formality, but we want the folks to know how much money we're spending, and also that'll include then that we post the treasurer's report for your information. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Tim. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
And Matt?
Yes.
And Hal is yes also. Thank you. Okay, Walter, you're up for your report and any general items that you have for us to handle for you. But please unmute yourself before you start.
I was practicing.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. There's just a few items tonight regarding staffing updates. The building inspector, health and code enforcement officer position has been posted, and we've started to receive some interest in that position. The town-owned property sale update. I'm continuing to research a number of town-owned parcels and to evaluate the status of the current tax and repurchase agreements. I've now dragged Cheryl into this project, so she'll be working on it with me. So as a hand-in-hand effort to try to determine the status of all of our town-owned property, all of our pending agreements, et cetera, and be prepared to hopefully offer a number of parcels for sale in the late spring. So that project is moving forward.
Walter, question on that for me, please. Do you have any sense as to whether you're going to try to do this all properties at once, or are you going to try to segregate them into different groups? Have you thought through that yet?
So I'm analyzing that now, trying to look at some of the history that I found in some of the files in terms of, people that currently have interest that are abutters, perhaps them, perhaps people that are heirs to property that was taken, different scenarios like that. I'm trying to evaluate those and see if we can't deal with those separately ahead of a large public sale. And then whatever lots are remaining, properties are remaining beyond that, then we would deal with them on a larger scale sale.
Pam, you have a question also? And then Tim?
I do. Walter, a really amateur question, but as you're going through these town properties, on the books, are they delineated if they are properties such as town forest or beaches, things like that, that are in fact town property of the people, as opposed to these non-payment of taxes or in arrears? Is there a way to define those from one another?
Definitely. So we look at those, individual properties and to try to determine if there is any, permanent retention by the town. If they're strictly tax deeded properties, typically when you have a sale like this, you would submit the list of the properties prior to the sale to the Conservation Commission and even the Recreation Commission, to try to evaluate them and see if there's any properties that perhaps the town meeting should consider retaining in perpetuity for public use. So that's part of the process that we'll go through as we bring these forward, and hopefully, that would identify any potential properties like that.
Okay, thank you, Walter.
And then Tim, I think, and then Matt.
Have we figured out who the gentleman was or lady was who did the Deerfield sales? Is that something that we could send out an email, see if the availability or anything, put them on a schedule that we might require the services, or is it something that we're not going to go that route, or just, I mean, I talked to a couple people over there and that wasn't really slick, they said, so,
It really did, yeah.
but I
But this-
just didn't know who the guy was. I never got the information, so.
Yeah.
Certainly can reach out to them, when the time comes, so we have an idea of what the volume's going to be.
Oh.
See what the options are, see what type of, contractual requirement, what type of fee, et cetera. And look at, some other options as well.
Okay, and Matt, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Walter, Winnie Young actually has a list of properties that the Conservation Commission has already identified that they're interested in. So I can track that down for you, so you have it on the front end of this process instead of having to do it backwards. So I'll track that down for you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Well, Walter, as you can tell, that there's a lot of interest in this topic, so move it along, buddy.
Absolutely. It's spending a little bit of time on it every day.
Good. That's good to hear.
Yep. Any other questions on that topic?
Beth, you're the only one that didn't ask. You want to ask one? Okay.
Okay, so
No,
moving on.
I'm glad that we're finally doing something about it. So thank
Yeah.
you, Walter. I appreciate it.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely at the top of the list. Regarding the FY20 audit, the auditors from Plaza and Sanderson were on site for 2 days last week. Because of the storm, they would have been here 3 days, but they were able to communicate with Cheryl long distance for the storm date, and they were able to wrap up their field work in the 2 full days on site. And comments back so far have been, considering the circumstances with the personnel changes, they were pleased with the way things went and the preparedness of all involved in the process. So special kudos to Cheryl for kind of quarterbacking the team through the process, even though she's wasn't even working here in 2020. Really appreciate her efforts in getting things prepared and working with the auditors before, during, and now continuing after their site visit. So we should be able to wrap this up in the next couple of months, and then the full report will be available in the spring.
So I just got to say, Walter's complimenting Cheryl because he had the poor woman crawling around on her hands and knees digging through boxes of records. So Cheryl, we appreciate your efforts. Thanks.
Very much so. Thank you.
So just an update on the Human Services Department, which is our welfare department. We continue to receive a small number of requests for assistance, mostly from folks that have been impacted by the pandemic. Paul has actually been drafted to work with me and try to learn that system some, and him and I are handling the application process. And we expect to continue to be able to do that unless there is a significant increase in activity that comes along that will require more time that both Paul and or I have available. But right now, I think we're good as far as that that office is concerned and meeting the request of the individuals so far.
So, Walter, excuse me, does that mean we don't, or we aren't retaining, our former welfare director? We aren't retaining his services anymore? It's just, okay.
No, we haven't since he resigned back in December.
Okay.
So,
Not even for the hourly basis then?
No.
Okay, great.
He has a full-time job now, and he wasn't interested. He's been
Okay.
available to help and answer questions and so forth. They've been very helpful from that standpoint of view, but not
Yeah.
not meeting with
No caseload.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring you up to date on our drug and alcohol testing program. We've been working with the New Hampshire Motor Transportation Association, and we've now brought the town into compliance as far as for our CDL drivers, which includes the new federal motor carrier clearinghouse requirement. So that's been tightened up, and we're now in compliance for 2021. And that's something that we'll obviously keep an eye on and make sure that we stay in compliance through the coming years. So just an FYI on that to let you know that that's taken care of. Surplus vehicle sale, the cruiser, the highway pickup, and the fire command vehicle have all been posted for bids with a bid submission date of March 15th, 2021. Haven't been overwhelmed with calls yet, but if anybody's looking for a good, or looking for a second vehicle, please
Yeah,
give me a
careful how you describe it, Walter.
I-
They're where is as is.
I took that back. Regarding the Atlantic Broadband Franchise Agreement renewal, I confirmed that the Lakes Region Consortium will accept us back in to negotiate the expiring agreement with the town in 2023. And a meeting of the group is scheduled for the near future to discuss the process and so on and so forth. So that's going to be a opportunity for us to get that agreement renewed on a more economical basis, using the resources of a number of different communities and one attorney to do all the work, who happens to be the top attorney in the state regarding franchise agreements. So we're good. We're in. We've been
Good.
accepted. I just wanted to point out a couple of important legislative updates. House Bill 274, the state resuming contributions to the New Hampshire retirement system. There's a full vote scheduled for tomorrow on that in the House. So if you haven't had an opportunity to express our support, your support, as an individual and both as a select board member for that bill, please do that before you go to bed tonight. So that they know that there's strong support from Northwood for bringing at least some contribution back to the cities and towns for the New Hampshire retirement system.
What was the recommendation out of committee on that?
I believe it was favorable, but it was close, if I remember. There was.
Okay.
I'm having trouble accessing my computer at the office, so I don't have my full bulletin with me. Then House Bill 459, which is kind of a crazy bill, but it basically limits the budget transfers within the operating budget from any lines with a zero in it, and it makes you all, with the exception of Chris and Cheryl, personally liable if you violate that. So not sure, this is coming out from left field and it really doesn't make a lot of sense, but for example, if one of our line items that we do put zero in the event that we do have the opportunity or need to transfer money within the operating budget into one of those zero lines, well, this would prohibit that from being done, which could be a problem in a particular year that might have an opportunity to take advantage of a situation that would benefit the town, or a situation where we may be in need of funding something that we hadn't anticipated but did have a line for. So definitely don't want to support that. That would definitely be a negative and a control that would be detrimental to the operations of all the cities and towns in the state.
Walter, on that, just a quick question. I know the budget committee is usually helps us out on that by putting $1 in where we maybe forgotten or missed it. Does that help? By us continuing to do that? Does that avoid this potential?
It would help if this passes, okay? Because I believe the bill does specifically say zero. So if there's $1 in there, then it would be exempt from that particular law. But
Okay.
but it's within the operating budget,
Good to
not
know.
the overall budget.
Okay.
There's also a constitutional amendment, which would amend the Constitution to prohibit any municipality from raising property taxes more than 2% per year. Again, talk about tying your hands and putting you in a situation that would be basically a disincentive to saving money, because if you have a kind of a lean budget year, that would basically step you backwards and cap you for the following year at this 2%. So, as you know, constitutional amendments are a whole different ball of wax when it comes to getting them adopted. But stranger things have happened, and again, this is another one that has appeared to get some legs, in terms of being approval, but it does require, I believe, a supermajority to at least even get on the ballot for an amendment. But again, stranger things have happened, so it's another one to keep an eye on. And as mentioned, that'll go to the House floor in early March. So we need to, again, touch base with the representatives on this one and to vote that down in the report, and any subsequent motions from the to inexpedient to legislate.
So Walter, on that particular one, that maybe it's too early to understand or to tell, but the implication meaning you can't change the taxes by more than 2% would mean that if, for example, the state revenue on meals and taxes declines by $300,000 to us, by definition, then we'd have to cut something, and it might not necessarily be the town, it might be the school, right? Yes. I mean, right now we don't know those details yet. So the potential to be whipsawed is pretty severe there.
Right, and it's important to note that it's not capping the budget, it's capping the property taxes. So it's basically, you're right.
Yeah, that's what makes it difficult, because like in this past year, the revenue projections are what killed us, really. Everything was expected to be down, and we had to plan accordingly. So yeah, that could be very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
well, appreciate the heads up.
Yeah, just some things to keep an eye on, and I'll continue as I did today. As the bulletins come out, where a call for actions, I'll forward those to you, so that make sure that you have an opportunity to reach out to either the representatives or Senator Egan. Then please make sure you do that and let them know that we're concerned about a number of these things that would affect our town negatively, for sure.
Yeah.
So, and I think, as I mentioned, the one I sent out today, obviously, had to do with, I believe, the retirement system vote that's coming up this week, tomorrow, actually. So we want to make sure to take action on that. And just looking at upcoming meetings, I'm assuming we'll stay with the same schedule for the month of March, which will be the 2nd and 4th Tuesday, the 9th and the 23rd.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And obviously on the radar for May is the deliberative session and voting day on June 8th.
Yes, and
just by way of sorry.
Just by way of heads up on that, I've been asked by Brian Winslow about the possibility of the school deliberative session being pulled earlier. And it now looks like they're targeting the 22nd of April. I did ask them to double check to make sure that there was no issues with that timing, and that came back that they believe, based on the executive orders, they're okay. So I believe that change is going to come through. Matt, did you want to?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say.
So sorry.
Nope, fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think that's a problem. They just have to comply with the notice requirement.
Right. Right.
Okay. And
okay. So that's it for you, Walter?
That's it for me.
Okay. Then let's move on. We've got the board rules, the position description, and the code of ethics. At the previous meeting, we went through those. Walter sent out some edits. Walter, do you have a preference as to how we handle this? Do we want to just discuss them in general? Do you want to go over any particular items, or are you asking us to put it right to a vote?
There's only a few edits to the bylaws.
Right.
So it might be good for people that might be listening but not seeing, obviously, to just point out that, the amendments that are being considered have to do with section 5 under meetings. Under section B, I think it's important to suggest that we just insert that the workshop, in the last line, the workshop meetings are open to the public. However, citizens' input is generally not a part of workshop meetings. And I think that just clarifies and codifies that rule or practice, if that's what the board wants to sign on to.
Okay, and you do have some other ones in here that are obviously standard. We're going from a quorum as, instead of 2 to 3, and some of those types of things, which are, again, pretty standard, or required actually at this point. Anything else that you want to mention, Walter, on that?
I just, I added a couple of the items that are currently on the agendas that wasn't on the, under the, like the consent agenda and the town administrator's report. They weren't in the bylaws and so forth at this point in time. But no, that was all I had as far as that's concerned until just under the section 8, appointment of board representatives to town boards and committees and
Clean
commissions.
that up.
I just kind of clarified that a little bit.
Right.
And talked about the difference between ex officio members and liaisons, if that's an acceptable term for the board to use for committee representatives.
Actually, I think that is one of the ones that I would like to discuss, Walter. I'd like to get the board's sense on that. Ex officio, now that I've read the definition and stuff like that, so like on the planning board, I'm an ex officio member and I vote. Similarly, on the budget committee, Pam voted. On these other ones where we're liaisons, do we still vote or do we not vote?
I believe, I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I didn't look at the charge of each one of the different committees, and maybe some know by recollection, but typically the charge for each committee when it's established will outline, the membership, between representatives from different boards, et cetera, at-large members, and depending on how many official positions are listed will determine basically, or tell you how many are actually voting members as opposed to non-voting members.
Okay.
I think from my past experience with this type of a format, the liaisons have not been voting members. So
Okay.
So that might be something we want to consider as a different word then,
How can they
because
see me?
if the board members are going to vote, or it's in the charter that they should vote, then maybe liaison isn't the right word, and maybe we can pick a different word. What do you recommend, Walter? I'm just concerned that we either, cut them in or cut them out without, like you said, your point about looking at what the charter actually says, I think is perfect. And I'm just a little bit leery where if the charter says there's a board member that's a voting member, then the liaison word might be in conflict with that. That's all I worry about.
well, maybe we, continue this discussion to the next meeting, and I'll do my best to locate the charge that established the committee to see if it has
Okay.
specifically that wording in it. And from there, we can break them out. If some are voting and some aren't, we'll break them out specifically in the rules.
We could also just take the easy route here and say, with voting privileges determined by charter or majority vote of the committee, right? I mean, so that way, if it's not in the charter, which it's probably not on some of them, it's as simple as a vote of the members minus the select board member to decide whether the select board member gets a vote. So, and then that can happen every time there's turnover, right? Or that can happen yearly. My only other thought on that section would be to loosen up the language a little bit. So like even with some of the committees that we've got listed here, we've shuffled some of the language and stuff around them. So the recycling committee is the transfer station advisory committee now, and we combined facilities and what do we combine facilities with? But you know what I'm saying? So if we could have language like may include but are not limited to, I think that gives us a lot of freedom in terms of where we send people or don't send people on any given year without having to go back and fix bylaws all the time.
And revise this document every time too. Yeah, Pam, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, is there some way to have a subcategory of temporary committee appointments, such as, for example, if we wanted to have an economic development committee, which we no longer have or use, but if we wanted to put that in place, is there some line in there about the board being able to create a committee? Something, I think that's kind of normal to have something in there about committees as needed or whatever, as opposed to limited to just these committees.
I guess to that point, Pam, if we adopted Matt's suggestion where we just say all the other ones are per whatever the committees put in their charter, and we, in addition, maybe have some point where it's any committee chartered by the select board, that might cover all the things, and then we don't have to keep updating this document either with the list of items or with
Right.
who does what. Yeah, definitely. Or
Well, there's usually a definition between like a standing committee and a temporary committee. So like these are standing committees, but sometimes there's a need for a temporary committee as opposed to standing.
But I would even say, even if that's the case, that would be in the charter. This is like you say, a standing committee until dissolved by the select board, or this is a temporary committee till the 250th anniversary celebration is complete. Something like that. And my feeling is so long as we refer back to the charter in all cases, we might be okay. Do you want to look at this some more, Walter?
Well, first of all, I want to say, reference back to what we're really talking about. This section here is an annual event whereby whatever committees that exist, even though whether they're listed here or not, the representatives are determined typically after the election. If there's whatever the makeup of the board is at that particular time, individuals, that's the point in time when these assignments are given for these committees. I think what Pam's talking about, certainly the select board has the authority, as the chief executives of the local government to establish new committees, whether it be permanent or temporary. And so I'm not sure that needs to be addressed in this particular section. I just think maybe Matt had a good point about having either one broad capture statement that captures all the existing committees at the time of the appointments, or the list that's here plus any additional ones that may be established during the course of the prior year or something like that, which will capture all the different committees, and it can be addressed that way.
Matt, didn't you also have something about Organization Day or something in your comments?
Oh yeah, we talked about that last time.
Yeah, did that make it in here or not? I don't remember seeing it, tell you the truth.
No, but I think it's the same idea. It's
Yeah, I believe it's addressed elsewhere, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
You know, typically,
Well,
Yeah.
Tim, do you want to weigh in on this?
Well, no, I'm looking through my hard copy and I don't have sections 3 to 5. So I just want to know if we could get them. I'm not having trouble with my internet, at the meeting, but I'm looking at the hard copy Paul sent out. It goes from sections 2 to section 6. So I'm missing a page or two. Some of those revisions. So I just want to make sure we get the whole thing. So we can
Okay,
definitely look it all over.
those are missing on the electronic version as well.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
but a two-sided
Good
copy.
catch, good catch, Tim.
So it's basically section 3, 4, and 5 is.
Yeah, I thought I saw something more than that maybe it was on the first version we got them.
Yeah.
We did get them on the first version. I think we didn't break up the pages. They were two-sided pages.
Okay, well then maybe, okay, so we had a lot of good discussion, and I think to Tim's point, let's not try to push it now without having the full document. Let's make the rest of the edits that we discussed here on this one, and then can we bring it back next meeting, Walter?
Sure can, and I'll do my best to determine, from the different charges of the different committees, if there is a specific position for the select board representative, liaison, whatever the term's going to be. And if not, it might be time to have a discussion about, what the role is that you want those liaisons to be in. Voting versus non-voting. Voting gives you a sense of influence, in my opinion. Being a liaison makes you an observer, a communicator between the committee and the board.
Right.
Just food for thought.
Yeah,
based
okay,
on experience.
good point.
We are going to include the list. Can you just add Recreation Commission to it?
Yes, I have that. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the rules. What about the position description? Do we want to go over that now at this point? I'm not, I could have swore I read that one in the earlier version too, and I'm not seeing it in this one.
Yeah, it's not there.
I didn't have any recommendations on that particular description. Again, I thought it was all inclusive and then some.
Yes, the only thing about that is the ex officio stuff again, but we can figure that out. But no.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we do this, unless somebody objects. Walter will investigate that particular section we were talking about a little bit more. And then at the next meeting, let's just include all those documents again, and we'll make a final decision on them rather than try to rush through or try to do it piecemeal. Everybody comfortable with that approach?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Sections 3,
Okay, then, unless, is
3 to 5, miss.
yeah, is there anything else that we want to talk about related to that? Or are we ready to move on to the task manager? Okay, Walter, why don't you go over the highlights on this? We already talked a little bit about the town-owned property, but anything else you want to highlight?
Nope. I think the things, most of the things have been noted. I've finished up or just finishing up our update to our IT continuity of operations and recovery plan with Mainstay. So that's essentially done. I just need to get them back a couple of updated contact information. And then I've added, a couple of tasks that have come up since the last meeting. Your suggestion about the renovation of the center school, getting that on the radar for some type of a an evaluation and perhaps looking to see what's available for grant funding to address that building or on a preservation basis.
And I just want to explain to the rest of the board, I happened to be in Walter's office and see a town report that had a picture of a really nice looking train station. And Walter said, "Oh yeah, I was in charge of the project that renovated that." So I thought, well, you know, we got some expertise here. What about the center school? So that's why I suggested adding that. I brought that up for two reasons. One was to mention that Walter has some expertise, but also, you know, if anybody else on the board has ideas or suggestions, please talk to Walter directly. Get him on the list, and if there's a question in Walter's mind as to whether it's just something we should vote on to take action versus him putting it on the list, we can have that discussion, but get it to Walter for consideration right away and don't lose the thought. So, yeah, so go ahead, Walter.
Yeah, and the only other thing that I added was, again, just a reminder that we'll revisit, you know, the voter guide and the deliberative session info as we get closer to the deliberative session, kind of put a target date on that of the 27th. So we need a refresher about what's on the warrant and so forth, and how we're going to handle presentations and discussions at the deliberative session. So I wanted to get that back on the radar, so we didn't wait till the last minute to address that. So those are, you know, again, pretty much the things that have been added for this week.
And the last item, I'd also like to mention that I think as part of the preparation for the deliberative session, I'm going to suggest that the board start, you know, sort of lift their heads up a little bit and looking ahead, not just for this year, but also for future years, and start thinking about how we set the tax rate. We had a pretty good year financially last year, so we'll be adding to the general fund. The general fund is in general a bit higher than the average recommended. So I believe we have some financial play there to start thinking about how we start working on leveling off the tax rate, how we might do that with the general fund in conjunction with when we see big items coming up. So Walter can start to do some of that also, so that it's not just us looking at what's coming up on the vote this year, but we're starting to look ahead into future years. And again, this is something where Walter has a lot of experience with this, and I'd like to see if we can take advantage of that. So that'll also be part of that discussion if nobody else objects to that. And then I guess the final thing I just say on this, please make sure you go through these and their relative priority levels. I know that I have my own personal preferences and things, but this is what Walter's recommending, and it's certainly up for discussion. So if people feel we need to reshuffle the priorities, that should be part of, in my mind, part of our discussion when we get to this chart during the meeting. So I realize that right now, you know, I'm just bringing this up sort of, and you're cold on this, but I would appreciate it if folks would take a closer look for next time. And then if there does need to be a discussion on relative priorities, then I'd like to have it next meeting. Walter, anything else on that for you?
No, that's all I have.
Okay. What about the poll license process?
So I just wanted to touch base on that so you're prepared for our next meeting on the 9th, which is when we're going to be holding our public hearing at 7 o'clock as part of our regular scheduled meeting. We'll pause for that particular cause. And at this point, we have done the proper notifications to all the utilities. We put a notice in the newspaper that's required regarding the public hearing. at the public hearing, we've got some pretty specific guidelines that we will need to work with, in terms of discussing, what the impact of the poll tax is in terms of just complying with the state statute that was fought over for quite a few years, but now that it's established, we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to tax appropriately, the entities that are occupying the town's right of way, just like we do other property in the town. So the process is going to be fairly tight as we go through the hearing and through the hearing process. At the end, the selectmen will, have a formal motion to amend our existing license and to amend our and create a new license form for the utility companies to complete. And then at that point in time, we should be, ready to adopt by resolution the new requirement. And then we'll provide notification after the hearing in terms of what's required, and being effective immediately. That will give us an opportunity to tax those utilities as of April 1st of this year. So
Excellent.
That's-
Excellent. So Walter, you'll have that all written out in terms of the motion that we need to
Yeah.
approve. Okay.
I'll have everything prepared, but just, again, just wanted to give a sense about what's going to come as we go through that process. And again, not expecting, a large turnout. I haven't received any comments as of yet from any of the utilities. We may get one or two, which
Yeah.
obviously would be not in favor. So we will read those into the record as we would any other testimony in writing form. And it'd be unlikely that we have any actual physical or virtual participation by anybody. So
Okay.
that's what's coming on that on the 9th.
Okay. Sounds good.
Good.
Okay, so there was a long list of building permit fees and stuff. How do you want to go over that, Walter?
So the purpose for bringing this on the agenda tonight was really to start the discussion. I've been listening and talking with Charlie Smart, our interim inspector, about where Northwood is in terms of their fees relative to a lot of the other communities in our area. And his opinion is that we are significantly low in what we're charging for our building permit fees, and that we should definitely be looking at a not only an increase in the fees, but also consider a different structure about how the fees are calculated. I've been through this in other communities, and again, it's one of those things that it's almost philosophical in terms of it's about how you want to handle the impact of people building in the community. Is that something you want to amortize their cost over the life of their project or improvement through property taxes, or should they be responsible for paying for the administrative costs, the cost of issuing and approving the projects upfront, basically, at the time? And so that's where you get some different philosophical decisions. This department will never be money making. That's not the intent, but it's really just to help defray some of the costs that that is included in making this department work. And most of it's labor, obviously, but it includes a part-time person, a part-time administrative person, and so forth. So it's substantial. So I think it's incumbent on the town to at least try to recoup a reasonable amount towards the operational cost of issuing and managing this particular department, issuing permits and so forth. So Charlie's Charlie's recommendation is to go to a different model. Right now our model is based on square footage, which can, as you know, be quite variable, depending on, the particular type of construction that's going to be used, the construction materials.
Right.
A 2,000 square foot home, can vary, in cost per square foot from, $100 to $300, depending on, the construction methods and finish detail, et cetera. So, versus just sticking with the standard square footage, you could go to a cost per 1,000, which would be, my opinion, probably more reflective and equitable of what the fee should be, versus somebody that's just doing a standard $100 square foot addition with your basic doors and windows and carpet and so forth. So, but again, the intent was really to start the conversation. I know there's been some discussion about this in the past, either with this board or previous boards that Charlie mentioned, and things have pretty much stayed the same, but I think it's worthwhile having a discussion and, moving this forward at some point in time.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we frame this properly. So if I understood correctly, Walter, what you said at the start there, I guess there's two extremes. The one is we could just say, we're not going to charge anything for a building permit or anything like that. It's all just going to be absorbed by the taxpayers on the assumption that over the lifetime of the building being here in town, we recoup that cost. And so we don't have any fees. And then the other extreme would be to say, okay, we issued 20 permits last year. Between Charlie's costs and Carol's costs to, coordinate things, file things, et cetera, et cetera. It costs us, round numbers, $100,000. So each building permit, $5,000 a pop, and we cover the costs. So are those the two sort of extremes that you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if we decide to go with more of a recovery type process, it could be just, per permit, it could be per square foot, it could be per dollar. There's various ways of doing that. So just for general idea, do you have some sense as to approximately how much we recover in permits? I know we report the amount, but I don't recollect what it is in terms of fees like that.
I think relative to the cost, we probably recoup about 25%, maybe 30%. I don't have the exact dollars in front of me, but just doing it off the top of my head, figuring the cost of, as I say, the inspector. Again, not all of it's spent on building permits, but certainly the majority of it is. So, you're looking at, I would say, roughly somewhere in around a third of the cost might be recouped at this point in time.
Okay. Well,
which I think is on the low end.
yeah. So how do folks feel about it? Matt, do you want to weigh in on this, or Pam's got her hand up? Pam, go ahead. Pam, it'd be better if you unmuted yourself.
There we go. I keep tapping your face, pal, and the mic doesn't start. Walter, I've got 3 pages that say Northwood proposed, and then 3 pages that have the same proposed, and then I've got pages of current. Is there any difference between the first 3 pages proposed and the second 3 pages proposed? Is there a subtle difference in them? I know the first page on Northwood proposed has a bracket that says, I don't know, strike or something. So what's happening? What should I be looking at?
I think for the most part,
And it's the same on the digital.
Yeah, for the most part, they're identical. There was a discussion about taking out a couple of things that were fairly minimal, and those are items for discussion. Those were the portable garages and greenhouses under 64 square feet, et cetera. Again, sometimes not worth the paper and the impact.
All right.
Taxpayers.
So no differences to date right now.
Pam, you broke up with
just duplicate pages.
Okay.
Yes.
So they're
So
duplicate pages.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So does anybody have any thoughts as to where we should be on this spectrum that I mentioned, Matt?
So when I was first looking at this, I poked around to some of the other towns around us, and frankly, even the proposed numbers put us in a pretty reasonable area. It's on the low end if we look at some of the other towns.
Oh yeah, we're definitely low.
But I also, I understand the idea that, hey, I'm going to be paying for this for the next 50 years. Why should I pay a big chunk up front? I think if we can have a clear understanding of what our cost recovery is through the permitting process, and have a target for where we want it, I think that'd be really helpful for me in terms of figuring out where some of these numbers should fall. I also think, I'd be really curious to see what we've brought in terms of fines over the last several years. I'm assuming that's pretty low. So, I think there's this general sense of if I manage to get through the process of building it, I'm in the clear. And I'd like to see maybe if we can keep the permitting schedule on the lower end and then shore that up with some tougher enforcement. We might get folks following the rules a little more stringently, which I think needs to be the end result, right? We're not looking to make money on this. We're looking to ensure that the work that's being done in town is safe and up to code.
Yeah. And it's like with transfer station stuff. You put the fee too high on a TV, you're going to find it alongside the road at some point.
Exactly. Yep.
So so I think that's a good point. Beth or Tim, do you want to weigh in on this at all, or you agree with Matt? Or
I obviously keep stuff on. We're kind of still on the low end, but I don't know if we kind of. I mean, this is all Charlie sending this stuff in, but I don't know. Maybe the new building inspector, after we hire one, might have a little bit more input on if him or her have any past experiences. So I don't want to,
don't want to step on the toes.
Maybe somebody coming in will have a different view or different ideas, but.
Yeah. Walter, do you want to speak to that, or?
I was just going to say, I mean, this is going to be a process, because eventually, once we decide on something, we have to have a public hearing and so forth to change these fees. So, to Tim's point, I hope we'll have somebody on board permanently by the time that we get that far along. But I think we've got, as Matt said, I think we've got a good representation from the surrounding communities. I think we've provided quite a bit of that information to you. So I don't think we're on the radical end of high, and I don't think we're in the low. As Charlie and I talked about this, he agreed. He said, maybe we should probably be at $5 a thousand, which I agree, because that's very similar to an analysis I did in the last community I was in. But it's something that we would probably revisit periodically and probably have to adjust as the cost of operating and the cost of doing business town-wise, goes up. Then, in another couple of years, we look at this and say, okay, we need to make an adjustment in that unit price amount, and at least have a plan for monitoring it as we go along.
So what's the board feel in terms of the other thing that Walter mentioned, which is a change from per square foot to per dollar or per estimated dollar of the building? Beth? Or a different topic, Beth? Go ahead.
I was just wondering
different topic. I was
Yeah.
wondering when the last time we did an increase.
Oh, now that's a good question.
I think the response from Charlie was it's been a long time, but he didn't know exactly a year.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to find that yet. I'd have to go back probably through a series of minutes to try to narrow it down. But I think based on where the numbers are, it's probably been a while, but I can't tell you exactly when.
I think I'd like to know though, because we're going to be asked that probably at a hearing.
Yeah, and Beth, I think that maybe is part of what the research should be. Matt asked a couple questions, and this is another good one to have as part of the information we use to make a decision. So, clearly we aren't going to make a hard change tonight. Walter's got some things to look up, but I think just to sort of help him along here in the thought process, I think what I'm hearing is both Walter and Charlie are recommending a change from per square foot to per dollar or per value of project. Does anybody want to weigh in on that, or do we think that that's reasonable? Beth?
I think that was also recommended by the last building
Oh,
inspector.
it was.
Wasn't it? I thought that was.
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
remember.
it was. That was during our term last
Yeah,
year.
but that doesn't mean I remember. Well, how about we do this? I mean, it sounds to me like there's nobody really objects to that approach. And, Walter, are you implying that other towns have taken that approach successfully?
Yeah, I think you can see it on a couple of towns that I sent you the information on. And,
Yeah.
again, from a fairness and an equitable standpoint of view, it's much more equitable when you look at, different projects. As I mentioned, square footage is one thing, but, when you're looking at a fairly sophisticated, home project, that might be of equal square footage to your typical Cape, it's going to involve more inspections, more follow-up,
Sure.
additional consulting with the architects and so forth. So to me, I feel it's more equitable.
Okay.
I'm a fan of progressive taxation.
Yeah, well, I think that's what I was going to say. It's a little bit more progressive, and I think that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so I think the general guidelines are, Walter, we'd like to get some understanding as to where we are relative to, cost recuperation, and also, sort of historical, how long has it been, and therefore, that's part of the consideration in terms of how much we go up. If it's just a couple years ago, maybe that's a different thought than if it was several years ago.
Mhm.
And then I guess I'm hearing that the per dollar is probably what we should at least start with as a proposal, unless somebody else feels differently.
Okay.
Okay.
Look at
Any other comments on that? Pam, did you want to say anything else on that?
Now I wanted to know what Matt just got. It looked
I
good.
was gonna say, you want to send the waitress over? I could use something.
That looked like a pulled pork sandwich to me.
It's Brinner night, so breakfast for dinner. We're having like quiche looking kind of thing. I don't know.
Ooh,
It smells
Nice.
amazing.
wow.
What's the
getting
number for
hungry.
Grubhub?
Okay. Let's stay focused. Matt, if you can chew in and work at the same time, we'd appreciate it.
I can definitely do that.
Okay. Oh, geez, and we're going to put you on the spot because we're moving on to the rec department job description. Okay. Well, we'll let Walter talk first.
Looks like Brenna's going to be cold tonight.
So, it was a very simple light lift in terms of, we had talked about looking forward to having this be a full-time position if the funding's approved at town meeting. But in the meantime, getting someone on board under the part-time scenario. So in order to give somebody a full picture of what the responsibilities would be on a full-time, which takes the rec director position and the league coordinator and combines it into one. That's very simply what I did. And then Matt provided some feedback from the commission, and he can speak to that. But that's really all the process involved at this point in time to get your feedback.
Yeah, we really didn't make too many substantive changes. We took those 3 job descriptions of the lead coordinator, the part-time rec director, and the
Lifeguard.
the lifeguard coordinator, and we combined those into one position. Since we're not currently manning the beaches, we actually took out the lifeguard certification. I think that would be a barrier for a lot of rec director
Right.
types. So that came out, and then that was really it. All it does is combine those jobs into one document. The 3 job descriptions were pretty well written, and when you put them together, it turns into a pretty rock solid, universally useful job description. So I think that's what we're looking at.
So you still happy with recreation director for a title? That's still
That's what I'd be looking for. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Other questions or other comments? Matt, I did have one question related to communications. Certainly, as rec director, there's going to be a lot of communications regarding, the different, activities for people, things like that. I thought we also discussed that there might be a possibility to have the rec director also pick up on some of the town communications, the general communications. And I might have missed it, but I didn't see it in there. Did you include it, or do we want to have
Right
that?
there under other duties and responsibilities.
Oh, geez.
So we didn't specifically list it because we don't know what that's going to look like.
I get it now.
If it's going to be that we're sending out an electronic email through constant contact or one of those, then maybe the rec director doesn't make the most sense. If it's going to be a newsletter, I was at Uncle George's the other day and I picked up the Stratford, flyer, and it's 10, 12 pages, and they've got business ads mixed with recreation programs, mixed with committee and commission sort of report out. Like something like that's great. And the recreation director would be, I think, be a perfect person to put that together, because it's going to be mostly community events with other stuff.
I grab one every time I go over. It's a lot of information in that.
There's a lot of information in that, so I think regardless of how it all shakes out, I think the recreation director is a perfect person to be at the helm of that. I was hesitant to be too specific with it because
good. Yeah, no, that's fine.
who knows how it's going to turn out based on the future of our electronic communications, warrant article, and everything else that is sort of up in the air.
No, I don't have a problem with the approach. Actually, now that you explained it that way, I think it's actually the best approach. So I'm happy with that.
Great.
Does anybody else want to weigh in on anything on that? If not, should we formally approve this, Walter? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, so that we can go ahead and start posting the position.
Okay, so Matt, do you want to make a motion to approve it as written?
I will. I'll move to approve the recreation director job description as written.
And do we have a second by anybody? Thank you, Tim. Further discussion? Hearing none. Tim?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
And hopefully we'll have a good.
Matt?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
And Hal is yes. Okay, very good. Oh, Tim, I'm sorry.
So we'll get applicants. The committee will give us the best pick, Matt, or how do we pick one, or you tell me,
So we can do that however folks want. The last time we went through it, we had members of the Recreation Commission on the hiring committee, as well as myself and the TA. But whether we kick this down to the Rec Commission or handle that in-house is completely up to you all. I don't really have a preference one way or the other.
It says this position reports to the town administrator, so Walter will be involved somehow, but
Absolutely.
how the recommendation gets to Walter, I guess the board doesn't need to do that. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, Walter's going to be a central figure in that process, no matter what. Whether, I guess the question is, do we want the Recreation Commission to be the sort of?
You got some good people on the commission that know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, to me,
Let them
they were the ones who asked.
So if they weed out the process and give us the best 3, then you guys can sit down with Walter, and that works for me. Is anybody else? So
And just to be perfectly transparent, my hope is that we're going to find somebody who's highly skilled, checks all these boxes, and when we pass the budget, can slip right into a full-time position. So that's really my hope.
It'd be good. It'd be great. Okay, so that passed. I guess we're going to move on to committee reports. And Matt, do you want to say anything about the fishing derby?
Sure, yeah. Since we're talking about recreation, I'll talk about what's been going on with the rec commission. So first of all, excited to report we're going to try to hire a part-time rec director.
Wow. When did that happen?
Breaking news.
We had our ice fishing derby last weekend. We had just shy of 100 kids check in and register for that event.
100 kids, not 100 people.
Kids. So we were over 100 people on the ice.
Yeah.
It was amazing. There's some great photographs of the day up on the recreation Facebook page. And we actually had a volunteer take some really nice group photographs and then put like one of those event overlays on it and repost them back up. So we get some nice keepsake photos. I do want to publicly say thanks to the volunteers we had some wonderful volunteers from CBNA who were weighing and measuring all the fish, of which there were over 80. We caught 80 plus fish that day. Most of them made it safely back into the water with very few exceptions. I want to say thanks to the folks at the Congregational Church who opened up and they had hot chocolate and hot dogs and bathrooms, which is very helpful too, for our anglers to use that day. And actually, I do want to say thanks to Public Works Foreman Chris Brown, who donated all of the bait for the day, as well as some prizes of a tip up and some bait buckets. So overall, hugely great day, immensely successful. Turnout that we couldn't have possibly envisioned. I mean, I think people are just hurting for stuff to do. So it
was good.
So 100 kids went fishing that day. The other thing I'll report on is we're moving forward with playground work. So we're excited. We're going to be breaking ground on the excavation for that site as soon as things dry out this spring, and we'll start putting the word out for volunteers to help with our community build. So we're going to be saving money and building community spirit all at the same time by building that playground as a community build. There'll be a supervisor on site from the playground company who's directing everybody what to do, but we'll be looking for volunteers. And I happen to know that Mr. Kreider looks great in a hard hat. So I'm sure I'll be circling back around to all of you, but we're really excited. I sent out this evening, right before the meeting, I sent out the revised plans for the playground. So that's sitting in your email inbox. Really excited. It looks awesome, and I'm pretty pumped. We actually, the Friends of Northwood Recreation, the nonprofit organization that's been doing a lot of the fundraising for the playground, had committed $30,000 towards fencing and signage up at the playground. And it looks like there's going to be it's not going to cost that much for the fencing and signage. So Friends of Rec is actually already starting to talk about putting a smaller play structure down where the swing set currently is near those lower fields. So we're going to have a nice little complex up at Bailey Fields, and it'll be in place for this summer if all goes according to plan. Really excited. Yeah, Mrs. Boudreau has been working on this for a long time. So
wow, that's great.
Stuff.
That's great. It's nice to see stuff like that come to fruition.
Yep. And then the last thing I'll say is that while we still officially have a league coordinator, Ken Seymour, since we're still working on our old budget, he actually came and we're going to be talking about possibly doing some really low-key spring soccer as a recreation event. Like I said, families are looking for stuff to do still. Soccer, we really did a nice job of figuring out how to do it safely. So really just doing like a once a week, show up, play some games kind of soccer activity. So not even inter-town, but so we'll get some programs up and running, and the Rec Commission's really been working hard, and for a group of volunteers, they've been working their buns off. So
good.
I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Good, Matt. And since you mentioned Beth, I think we swing it over to her, and she can talk about the video and the cameo appearances of Walter and her on the video.
Yes. So the safety facility Strategy Committee. It's like this huge long name. We did do the video. We had, I think it was $300. I want to say. For
Yeah, it
the
was
video.
$300.
Yeah, the videographer and Elaine St. Jean's. They went to the fire departments, both of them, the police department. They literally said, "Here, read this. You've got 15 seconds." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" I know Walter had the same thing. I'm like, so I know I read very fast with 15 seconds. I wasn't sure how long it really was. So I sent you guys all the video when the committee's meeting, I think in 3 weeks, and then we're going to just try to plug it out to the public. So hopefully that goes well. And then the other 2 committees that I'm on, we have not met. They've just been postponed until I think we're meeting probably next month.
Yeah.
The holidays and stuff. So snowstorms, holidays,
Good.
But yeah, that's it.
Good.
Yeah.
That was
So
great.
and if you haven't watched the video, I think literally it's maybe 3.5 minutes long. So it could take a minute or 3.5.
It's a
Let me know what
good
you think.
video. And
Yeah, they did a really good
$300,
job.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it really turned out well. Okay. Does anybody else want to mention anything in terms of anything they're involved with? I'm going to pretty much pass on planning board and stuff because Linda reports all that stuff as part of the town report that Walter issues. But Pam? Oh, you're muted, Pam.
Hello. Zoning board is actively looking for a regular member. We have 4 regular members and 1 alternate at the moment. So anybody's interested in the zoning board, which meets the 4th Monday of the month. So it's a good way to become involved. Highly recommend it. If you like technical reading and you like rule books, this is the place for you, the zoning board.
way to paint it in a positive manner, Pam. Good.
But hey, I like the zoning board. I think good group. It's a real good group.
Yeah, there's some really good people on that committee or board, I should say. Good. Okay. I guess if nobody else has anything, I'm going to open it up for citizens. Oh, Walter does. I'm sorry, Walter. I didn't see your hand there.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to give Cheryl a couple of minutes to, address the report that was issued today as far as.
Oh, yeah.
And see if you had any questions, and she can update you on some of the processes that we're working on.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Cheryl.
Well, I sent out the 2021 expenditure report today to all of you. And even though there's no official budget in there yet to compare it against, I just wanted to have a chance to compare it against the same time period of last year. And some lines are up, some are down, but overall, the entire operating budget, the expenses are under $30,000 under what we had spent last year on this same time period. So that's good news. It'll give us a little leeway, hopefully, coming down the road with things coming at us. I know that Walter talked about the auditors working last week, and it went really, really well. I was very pleased. But I did want to let the board know that in last year's audit report, there were 6 items that the auditors had brought up for issues. 3 of those have already been addressed, so they will not be showing up again on the 2020 audit. And obviously, like Walter said about the tax deeded properties and whatnot, we are working on getting the other 3 as well. So, so at least we're going in the right direction. So unless anybody has any questions on the expenditure report or anything else that I can answer, then that's about all I have.
Questions for Cheryl? Anybody?
I want to say thank you for crawling on the floor and going through umpteen boxes of information. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's part of the process.
Cheryl didn't mention she's in her new office.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, I have moved into the new office, the old copy room, whatever you want to call it. and getting settled there. So that's nice. It's working out very well.
Good.
And yeah, that's where I was crawling around on the floor when Hal came in.
And the auditor was right there waiting for stuff.
Thank you so much.
You're
Well,
welcome.
Uh,
Cheryl,
bottom line. Still getting to the bottom line.
Okay, so Walter, anything else, or Cheryl, anything else?
I don't know, you want to touch on the policy update, Cheryl, that we actually
Oh,
got today?
yeah, see, I would never ask that question myself, because Walter would, he would, yeah, he'd think I'm trying to influence you, but if he brings it up, it's okay.
Well, no, Walter and I sat down today for a little while and talked about priorities of projects and whatnot now that we've gotten past the audit, and I feel like I can breathe a little bit. And so policy revisions and creations is on the top of my list. So I
Woohoo.
I had started drafting some policies before it got to be audit time. So this afternoon dove right back into doing that. So very shortly, Walter and I will sit down and go over what I kind of drafted and see where it goes from there. So before long, something will be coming to you guys for your opinions.
Good, that's great. That is great news. Yeah, that's something I think we felt for a while was sorely needed. So appreciate your priority on that. Thank you.
Yep, we will get that done as soon as
Oh
possible.
my goodness.
Yeah, good. Anything?
I feel so good. I mean, with what Walter's been accomplishing and Cheryl and everything, I mean, it just, the world seems rosy.
Well, let's
Bring
not
on
get too
spring.
complacent. Although I will say this, I did mention to Paul the other day also, it seems to me like we are now also regularly clicking off the agenda, the associated documents and things like that. I mean, you know, there's going to be occasional things like the duplicate pages like we had and stuff, but that's sort of like ongoing. But that too has sort of really gelled now. I think that's really clicking off just like it should. So yeah, I think things are falling in place. And I guess from a general perspective that I have, you know, I'm kind of happy to see that, because now we can start working on some of the things then that actually move the town forward on things that we haven't been able to get to. And I think that's a good situation. You know, we'll be able to really move the town into places and things that will really help that we maybe not had a chance to do before. So I'm excited. Walter?
Just one final thing. I do want to, you know, thank and recognize Chris for the efforts that he's been putting in with all these storms that we've had. They've been really challenging, and I think both him and our new hire, Jeff, have done an exceptional job in terms of keeping the road safe.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I know they've had some, you know, 24-hour days that, you know, if they didn't stay on top of it, we could have been, you know, in a lot of trouble as far as public safety is concerned. So I just want to thank Chris for his efforts and the efforts of the contractors that we have as well.
How are we doing on salt and sand?
Yeah, that was my question. How much salt and sand do we have left?
It's arriving daily.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right, Chris?
Yeah, Chris, we'd understand you if you took, yeah, there you go.
So we actually have 5 loads delivered today and 3 loads of salt coming in tomorrow. So unfortunately, yeah, it is coming in daily.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the same thing, the same thing I told you. You know, when I drove around a couple times, you know, it looked to me like Route 4 and Route 107 were not in as good a condition as some of our town roads. I'm thinking in particular Genis Pond Road. You know, I came up 107 and 107 was okay, but Genis Pond Road was good. So I guess you're timing things right.
No, unfortunately, there've been some long duration storms and stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Really tested some of the guys in our equipment, but for the most part, we've actually maintained pretty well.
And I just want to say, I appreciate, you know, 12 plus hours into plowing when somebody's on Facebook saying, why isn't this road plowed? Your response is always super professional and very, thanks for the information. We'll get on it. And I think that's commendable.
Yeah, good customer service.
My theory is if I can make half the people in town happy, I'm doing good. So
Yeah, that's right.
It's a good theory.
Good ratio.
Okay, anything else before we go into citizens forum?
Do we get anything back from the last page in our packet from that lady?
Actually, Walter, does that need to be on public?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hold off on that, Tim.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
why I kind
yeah,
of.
if you don't mind.
Okay.
yeah. Okay, citizens forum, anybody? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. So Walter, we do have some non-public, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's work through the logistics. Who's going to take over? Matt, are you going to take over controls?
Certainly can.
Cheryl, thanks for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
And Chris, thank you also. Okay, so Paul, you're going to give control to Matt, please.
He's going to shut everything down first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to call the motion, Hal.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Go to non-public.
so Walter, what are the reasons we're going into public? A, B, C, or, oops.
We're going into A and C.
Okay, so I need a motion to go into non-public 91A ... A and C. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
A second, please. Second by Tim. Thank you. Roll call vote. Pam.
Yes.
Thank you. Matt.
Yes.
Beth. You're mute. You have to say it again. We didn't hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm being a stickler because if somebody's listening, not on the video. And then Tim,
Yes.
thank you. And I'm yes also. Okay, so now we've taken the vote. So Matt, you're going to take over control. Do we need Paul to come back in afterwards, Walter?
No.
No.